Hi guys, I keep complaining about how the media is failing when it comes to politics. And here's another example of it. Trevor Philips had Wes Streeting on to discuss the welfare bill that's going through Parliament at the moment. And instead of actually focusing on the detail of it and the fact that the cuts and the changes, the so-called reforms, are going to impact people about a year from now who apply for these benefits, instead of focusing on that, he was more interested in political intrigue. Have a listen to this.
This week, the welfare bill goes into the House of Commons. Are you confident that you're going to win the vote?
Yeah, I think the changes that were made this week have put us in a much better position, not just on the vote on Tuesday, but on the substance of the package. Because as a result of the changes, it means anyone watching this morning who's in receipt of PIP, personal independence payments, now has the peace of mind of knowing that their situation's protected. Those disabled people and organisations that have spoken out about, their concerns about reform to PIP will now be actively involved in the review led by Stephen Timms, the Disability Minister, about its future. And we've got to... Sorry.
No. I hear, we know what the changes are, but I just want to get clear where the government stands with respect to backbenchers.
There was an opportunity there to talk about how people are going to be impacted a year from now or over a year from now. But no, let's talk about the backbenchers.
I assume that any minister or ministerial aide who still votes against this bill will lose their job. Will MPs who vote against government lose a whip?
Well, that's not my decision. And
should they?
It's part of the course of parliamentary debate that we are held to account by government, that MPs put forward their proposals, their alternatives. There is an expectation that Labour MPs vote for the whip, but as we've seen over many Labour governments, people don't always do that. The one thing I would just say is taking a step back and looking at what's happened over recent weeks, how have we ended up in this position? Because everyone knows that welfare reform really matters. Firstly, there is broad consensus about the need that it's necessary to make the system sustainable and fairer. But
we have to remember that when certain people talk about reform, they mean cuts. So unless the reform is we're going to give people more money and better support, then no, not everyone supports reform.
People really scrutinise this because we know that there are lots of people on the sharp end who are on the receiving end of decisions we take, and people want to get it right, whether they're ministers or backbenchers. And I don't want to be in a position where someone comes into my advice surgery on a Friday with a situation where they're worse off, and I look at their case and think, we didn't mean for that to happen to you, and that's why we're trying to get this right. But
this is a very important point, actually. You say people scrutinise it. Now, by my reckoning, it's 104 days since Liz Kendall announced that you were going to tighten the eligibility for disability benefits.
He's still back to this. Will you stay on the actual topic? The topic should be the welfare bill itself, how it's going to impact people's lives. I think most people who are disabled at the moment, who are worried about changes to PIP and to benefits, are more concerned. I think they're more concerned about what's going to happen to their lives than what's going to happen within Parliament. They don't care about backbenchers, they don't care about rebellions, they don't care about Keir Starmer, they care about their own lives. And that's why the media should be focusing on the actual policy as opposed to the politics of it.
The Prime Minister says 2 days ago, you only just discovered that the balance was wrong. What were you all doing for the other 102 days when minister after minister would turn up here and say, it's all fine? Prime Minister talked about noises off.
Well, bear in mind, the bill itself was only published, a couple of weeks ago, and we've obviously been talking
102 days.
But hang on, Trevor, let's be fair, because the overall package, what the welfare reforms would look like, was set out, as you said, over 100 days ago. But the bill itself was only published the other week. And as ever,
the devil's in the
head
of a pin here.
No, the devil's in the details.
Everybody knew what you wanted to do, and you kept telling us.
Okay, look, we know. The government U-turned because of the backbenchers. Okay, let's move on from this. He's already spent half of this interview talking about the theatrics instead of actually the policy itself. And unfortunately, he doesn't get onto the policy, really. He spends the entire interview back and forth about, okay, well, why did we have ministers come on here and defend it, and now it's changed and all of this? The ordinary people who are impacted by this don't give a flying F about that. They care about the policy, which you're refusing to discuss. Now, why is Trevor Philips not talking about the policy? He has a minister on, the Secretary of State for Health. Why isn't he asking him about these policies? Who's it going to impact? How is it going to impact them? Why have you made a change where it's going to impact people in the future as opposed to now? What about older people who join it, younger people who join it in a year's time? Why is he not focusing on the policy and instead the politics? This is part of the problem with the media. We should be focusing on policy because that's what impacts people's lives. Ordinary people don't give a crap about what happens in Parliament. And this is why I'm so critical of PMQs. It's theatre, pointless theatre. The real work actually happens in the committees. For example, I'm not saying it should happen, but I'd be a bit of an advocate for getting rid of PMQs because it's a waste of time. MPs stand up, ask a question, and the Minister or Prime Minister refuses to answer it. It doesn't even matter if it's from their own party or not. The media have a job. They're supposed to grill politicians, hold their feet to the fire. Try and understand, okay, what are these politics? Because they're representing the public in a sense. And the public's concern is more about the policy than the politics. So here, once again, is a wasted opportunity. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.